Hello everyone and welcome back to Very Cold Lasagna, your filthy casual place for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. I am Dylan Lasagna and welcome back to another preview of my San Francisco 49ers. And boy, are you all excited. Boy, it's going to be a game of playoffs this coming weekend for the 49ers. And unlike last year where I was talking about each and every time that I was guaranteeing the Niners with Jimmy G gonna get smashed by their playoff opponents. They somehow found a way to do it, and then their dreams got crushed. This time around, it feels a little bit more positive. This time, going to this postseason run feels a little bit more positive. Not because I don't like Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, still, this postseason run feels a little bit, has a little bit more upswing, a little bit more upside towards it. Sure, there's a lot of questions that needs to be answered still in regards to their quarterback position, but we're definitely going to be talking about it in this NFC Wild Card preview as 49ers host the Seattle Seahawks. 2 seed versus 7 seed. It's the 3 match on Super Wild Card weekend. So obviously, definitely a big weekend and a big game to kick off Super Wild Card weekend. Yes, that is right. The 49ers are kicking off Super Wild Card weekend hosting the Seahawks, and I gotta say I'm kind of a little peeved. This is the very first game because I kind of won't be able to watch it. So it's definitely going to suck not being able to watch it live. And I bet for any of you that won't be able to watch it live either, I definitely feel for you. It sucks. It definitely is going to suck. But to all of you that are going to watch it live, enjoy it, experience it, whether it's at the stadium or at home, on the telly, enjoy it. Definitely enjoy it. But anyway, as for this game, it's a 3 match. It's a 3 match between these two NFC West rivals. I mean, honestly, it can go a million number of ways. Obviously, we know the story of how these two teams have been in the regular season. And just a little bit of a refresher, the Niners swept the season series. They beat the Seahawks at home in week 2, 27-7. Obviously, we all know what happened in that game. I keep talking about it, but that was the game. Trey Lance got hurt. He was supposed to be the starter, and then he broke his ankle in week 2, and then in came Jimmy Garoppolo. And then fast forward to week 15 in Seattle, when it became a big battle, where the Niners had an opportunity to clinch the NFC West, and there was no Trey Lance, there was no Jimmy Garoppolo. In came the third stringer, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, who was just coming off a big game that he had won against Tom Brady and the Bucs in a blowout. He's going in, very short week, Thursday night, and sure, he had a couple of mistakes here and there, but that defense still bringing on the brakes on Geno Smith and the Seahawks. The Niners beat them again, this time 24-13 in Seattle, which helped them clinch the NFC West. The Niners had Seattle's number in the regular season. But obviously, that was the regular season. Playoffs are an entirely different story. The Niners certainly felt that way in last playoffs when they swept the LA Rams, and then when it came to the NFC Championship game, they lost when it mattered most. But then again, did they lose when it mattered most, or were the Rams just really lucky? That is a good question that needs to be answered. But anyway, when you look at these two teams, looking back at the regular seasons, starting off with Seattle, obviously, Seattle, as the number 7 seed, many people thought that they weren't going to be here. They weren't going to be in this position in the playoffs. Many people, including myself, when I talked about the Seahawks back in July of last year, many people thought that Seattle was going to be competing for a top 5 draft pick, for a position themselves to draft a quarterback in the draft this year in April. Because, well, they traded franchise quarterback Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos last year in the offseason for a boatload of picks and a boatload of players. So, yeah, we all thought Seattle was going to begin their rebuild, begin the process of being the basement of the NFC West. Well, yeah, so much for that. Because, well, I guess the move to re-sign backup Geno Smith kind of paid off in some sort of ways. He went on to have a resurgent year. He even made the Pro Bowl. And, yeah, him, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, alongside rookie running back Kenneth Walker, who really had a pretty good year himself. They really brought a balance to the offense. Defensively, they still have some questions on that unit in both the rushing and the passing game, but they do find some ways to create some turnovers, and that's thanks to their safety rotation of Quandre Diggs and Jonathan Abram, along with corner Kobe Bryant. No, not the basketball player, unfortunately, but yeah, they still create a good amount of turnovers. But the only thing is, obviously, their run defense is not that great. All that being said, Seattle emerged from a 2-3 start to start the season. Managed to win 4 straight games, and they even had at a point during the season when the Niners were really struggling at the time, playing 49ers football, thanks to the crappiness of Jimmy G and whatever Kyle Shanahan was doing at the time and the injury bug running wild on the 49ers. Seattle actually had a grasp on the division, but the trip to Germany, when they had to face the Bucs to prove themselves, it actually went south. Some of their flaws, like the defense, the running game, when the running game's not working for them, Geno Smith, the pressure is kind of put on him solely. And yeah, he didn't really show. And against Tom Brady and the really bad Bucs offense, he made him look good in a really bad loss. And that would mark the beginning of losing their next 4 of the next 5 games. And when after that fifth loss, they were out of the playoff picture entirely. And now they would need some help to get back in it, along with winning some games. So they win their final 2 games against the Jets and the Rams and the Lions, who would be eliminated by Seattle in Week 18. They would beat the Packers later that night on the final game of the regular season to clinch, to help Seattle clinch the final wild card spot at 9-8. So had the Lions just lay down and Green Bay defeated them, this would be an entirely different story for Seattle. But here we are. Now, Pete Carroll kind of trying to play a little mind games here against the 49ers. He's like, nobody's expecting us to win. Unfortunately, we have to play the Niners. Everyone on Seattle is trying to play mind games with the Niners and its fans. But hopefully, the Niners do not be fooled. Hopefully, the Niners do not take the Seahawks for granted here, considering they beat them twice already. Because I guess the old saying goes, it depends on how teams approach it. It may be difficult to beat a team a third time in the regular season, in the playoffs, sorry. Especially considering that you beating them 2 times already in the regular season. So for the 49ers this season, Man, what a season this has been. What a season this has been for my 49ers, because this season should have been at least how I envisioned it back in July. Like, this season was all, or at least should have been all about development of Trey Lance. Obviously, you know, it was the first round pick from 2021 that Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, threw all those picks to the Miami Dolphins for to go and get Trey Lance from North Dakota State. We have seen a very small sample size out of him. We only, like, out to that point, until before the season started, we've only seen him start 2 games when Jimmy G was hurt, against the Cardinals and against the Texans. The Texans game, I thought, you know, there's a little bit of something from that game. But obviously, especially considering what he was doing in his offseason work, it seemed like there was definitely something. And then you get to the game against the Bears. He was kind of and a lot of it kind of had to do with Kyle Shanahan. And then you go to week 2, and then it was a lot of the same crap against when they played the Bears, when they played the Seahawks. A lot of running into the ground, literally, and then he broke his ankle against those Seahawks in the home opener. Like, ugh. So in came the guy he was supposed to he was supposed to replace, and the Niners were supposed to get rid of last offseason, Jimmy Garoppolo. So, yeah, they didn't get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo because, well, they apparently couldn't because of a shoulder injury, and he had to go get surgery, and the Niners couldn't trade or release him because they would owe him a shit ton of money. So, yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo back in the fold, and while he would do okay in games against Carolina and the Rams twice, he would completely shit the bed in Denver and Atlanta. It was like he would cost us some valuable games that could have, by this point of the season, the Niners could have had the number 1 seed. The Niners honestly could have had the number 1 seed over Philadelphia. Like, damn. Like, maybe we could have played Brock Purdy earlier, man. We could have played Brock Purdy earlier. More on him later. Obviously, we made the big trade for Christian McCaffrey. A lot of people were kind of in the middle about it. It's like, man, he's gonna make that offense really interesting, but we just hope that he's got to stay healthy. Obviously, for me, I was kind of in the middle of it. Like, I just hope he stays healthy. He's gonna be really good on offense, but it's like that's kind of like one of the things that we didn't really need to prioritize at the moment. So either way, Christian McCaffrey's addition eventually made the offense crazy. It kind of made it crazy, especially considering that you had an offense with him, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. Kyle Shanahan was just utilizing the hell out of it. And then once it proved that it would soon come into fruition with that, when, man, it was unfortunate that Jimmy G went down in week 13 against the Dolphins with a broken foot. It didn't really end the season yet because somehow, some way, they're still holding. I hope he can come back, at least in a backup role for the title game. But I know I'm kind of rambling a bit. But then that's when the story of Shanahan turning to Mr. Irrelevant, or our current starting quarterback, Brock Purdy, who, along with the already strong defense, ended up stepping in relatively nicely. And going back to my earlier point, like, showed signs of unlocking the potential of the already crazy offense with McCaffrey, Samuel, Ayuk, and Kittle. And that would be proven in the weeks to come. He seemed poised in the pocket. He seemed fearless to throw the ball. A lot of times he knew where to place it. And he just got more and more comfortable with the offense. And lo and behold, he showed that in games like his very first start against Tom Brady and the Bucks, kicking their ass, doing his part to kick Brady and the Bucks' ass in Week 14, and then doing his role to clinch the NFC West title in Week 15, and he just got better and better as the weeks go on. And obviously, he ran into, of course, a couple mistakes of his because, hey, that's what rookies do. But he managed to find ways to correct them in some ways. So what I'm saying is, like, sure, definitely not the most perfect quarterback, but he definitely addresses ways to try and correct them. Unlike, well, Jimmy G. So the Niners performed well the rest of the way. The Niners clinched the NFC West and the NFC second seed at 13-4. So obviously, for a lot of people, they're either putting the Niners or Philadelphia as their NFC favorite. Obviously, the Niners definitely have a potential to go deep, but let's focus on this game first, because this is a game where they can't overlook, obviously, because they played this team twice already. They beaten them twice, but like I've said countless times in this like weekly in this preview, it can be either just as they beaten them before, or it can be a little bit more difficult to beat them a third time. So for the 49ers, you can't overlook them. You can't do anything stupid, because if you do anything stupid, yeah, it's done. Because in the playoffs, it's one and done. It's your one chance to make it happen, or you're done. So going into this game against Seattle, both of these teams, they're mostly relatively healthy for the most part. Only players to note for both these teams for Seattle, they're not sure they're going to have like certain players like Shelby Harris, Al Woods, Xavier Crawford. Kenneth Walker was also listed on the injury report, but at one point during the week, he was just he had like a knee issue, ankle issue, but it was just like a maintenance day for him, so he should be good to go. But the Niners will definitely be prepared for him. Speaking of my 49ers, it seems like they're getting their pieces back on both sides of the ball, who were contributors in the regular season, like Kevin Givens, their defensive lineman, who had been missing since Week 14 against the Bucks with the knee injury. He's been a full go at practice, and it looks like he's ready to go for this first round matchup. Dre Greenlaw, a key part of that defense, who missed the last game against the Cardinals with a back injury. He seems like he may be back for this game, along with guard Aaron Banks, who also missed the Cardinals game. He came back to practice in a limited fashion. And backup linebacker Demetrius Fowles, who had been out with the neck injury. So he's also back in a limited role. So if all those guys come back against the Seahawks, it's definitely a major plus with the depth that is always needed. It is sorely always needed against a division rival for your first round playoff matchup. So going to this game for the 49ers, you just got to take care of your business. You have to take care of your business so you can move on to the next round. It's going to be a lot harder for everybody, especially for your third string, now turned starter quarterback, Brock Purdy. It doesn't matter what he did in the regular season. Playoffs are a much different animal. So looking at how the Niners need to succeed to victory, they can't be fooled by any downfield trick plays, especially the early ones. Geno Smith sometimes likes to throw it downfield when there's no pressure in his face to DK Metcalf and especially Tyler Lockett. Whoever's going to man Tyler Lockett, I imagine that's going to be Diomondre Lenore. Like, oh, God. I imagine Geno Smith's going to pick on Lenore a lot. And if Tyler Lockett's on him, then have mercy that Lenore does at least some good in on his part, because they're gonna have to do wonders on Lockett. So they can't be fooled by any trick plays, and they're gonna have to assure that the defense downfield is well, because they've been like kind of bad in the last couple of games, like with downfield receptions. So defending that, so they have to do a lot better on it. And of course, considering this is Brock Purdy's first playoff game, you have 5 to 6 games now starting. So for Kyle Shanahan, you have to make it feel comfortable, but also assertive in his first playoff game. Don't try to overcomplicate things. Don't micromanage the offense. Don't try to force things on him. Make him do his work. And sure, like there may be some things that he'll do that doesn't work, but don't try to like overcomplicate it. I know this kind of sounds kind of weird, but just try to make him work. That's with something that's within his range in a big environment. Now for Seattle, if they want to have a chance to upset the 49ers, because I know people are like, you're not giving them a chance. Well, I mean, for the Seahawks, if they want to have some kind of chance against the 49ers at an upset, obviously, as I mentioned, if you on the Seattle side, you can attack the 49ers with deep ball downfield throws, but Geno Smith and Pete Carroll shouldn't be getting too comfortable with it, because eventually over time, obviously, the more you do it, the more the Niners will adjust to it. I know some teams are like, they don't adjust to it at all, but defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans is at least smarter to that. So attack the Niners early with downfield throws, but don't get too complacent with it. You got to find a way to limit the Niners rushing attack. Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell did pretty solid together in the game against the Arizona Cardinals in the final regular season game. So considering that you already have a weak rushing defense, you got to find a way to close the gap, close the walls against McCaffrey and Mitchell. And another thing for Seattle, find a way to contain the pocket. Don't make Brock Purdy go out of it and make these off feet throws. So you have to find a way to keep him in the pocket, make him uncomfortable in there, get some sacks on him, and just generate some pressure if you're Seattle. So for the 49ers and the Seahawks this weekend, that's kicking off the whole NFC Wild, just the whole general NFL Wild Card weekend. Man, it could either be a close game, considering it's the third time they're facing each other in this season, or it can be a total wipeout by the Niners, because considering Seattle still has some general areas of weaknesses. I mean, not saying that the Niners have their own weaknesses, but they're definitely, in my opinion, a far stronger team than Seattle is. This can go in a number of ways, but I think the Niners are a much stronger team than Seattle is, and obviously I'm rolling with the Niners against the Seahawks. But then again, it can go one or multiple ways, but we're going with the Niners in this weekend matchup. And moving on to the next round against whoever comes out and faces us next weekend. So for now, look forward to this game and enjoy it all. And man, I wish I was just watching it. I wish I was watching it live on my telly on Saturday, but it is what it is. So, that's pretty much it for this preview of my San Francisco 49ers as they prepare for the NFC Wild Card, and they get to host it at home against the Seahawks in a 3-match in this season series. Who is the Niners going to get the 3-peat, or is Seattle finally going to get one over on the 49ers in a major upset? Let's see. It's going to be a big test for Brock Purdy in his first postseason game. Hopefully he does well. Man, it's going to be exciting. Definitely going to be exciting. So anyway, let me know your thoughts however you can. And this is Dylan Lasagna, a very cool lasagna, signing out. And until next time, peace out.